Sahana vavatu, sahanao bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvina vadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. It is wonderful to receive a section in the Gita that is relative to our work and our career, because this is also an important part of our life. And if that is out of balance, and maybe we're asking ourselves, yeah, but how does all of this vision, this non-dual vision, how do I apply it in work? And should I be working? Should I not be working? And all these questions relating our career. How do we optimize our career relative to what Krishna is stating? That is a very valid question, because there are many career advices. However, what does Krishna have to say about career? And he said a few things. He said specifically between verse 41 and 49. So, or we otherwise call it our swadharma, our personal duty relative to our environment, but also our career, because you cannot limit swadharma, your own duty, just to your house. You have to limit it. You have to expand it to wherever we find ourselves in the world. So what is swadharma? Swadharma is relative to our daily duties and our career, the one that we attend to every day. And we started off in verse 41, and we expounded the caste system, which is the heart of the Indian culture. And like many things, if it's pop culture, it will be highly distorted and interpreted in a way that is not originally meant to be that. The first thing that will come out of their mouths, and I've heard this before in Indian circles, is I'm a Brahmana, I'm a Kshatriya. So there's a identification with Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and this is not what it's meant for. In fact, if you look at your own life, you will discover that you go through every day the stage of a thinker, you're a Brahmana, the stage of an executor, you're a Kshatriya, the stage of the wealth generator, the one that has to find resources, you're a Vaishya, the one that follows, the one that simply stays in one place and follows instructions, does mechanical work, you're a Shudra. If we learn something in our career or even at house, when you bake a cake, you're basically a Shudra and a Kshatriya, because you're executing the cake, you're thinking about the cake, you're a Brahmana, you're following a mechanical procedure, which has been done before, that is a Shudra, and one's also generating resources. Where's the turmeric, where's the sugar, where's all of the ingredients? So we're accumulating those resources together in one place. So the caste system is not meant to be identified with and limited oneself by that. I'm a Brahmana, therefore I'm not allowed to do things outside a teacher role, the guide role, the thinker role. I am a Kshatriya, and therefore I'm not allowed to go outside the Kshatriya role of the executor, the initializer, the implementer, the Vaishya, the resource maker. If I do anything outside that, this is wrong, not good. So it's meant to portray what we go through in our daily life. In fact, your stages also change, does it not? When you were a teenager, maybe you were more of a wealth generator. Maybe you were more of a resource generator or a friend generator. When we grow up, and even when we grow up in our adulthood, we go through stages. Sometimes we're a thinker. You just want to sit and think. And then sometimes we just said, okay, now let me go and make something out of my life. Let me go out there and make friends and go to social events, or let's travel. Then you're a Kshatriya. You identify with that person who, that forward moving energy. Sometimes we discover that things are insufficient, like you want to change home, you want to see something that's lacking in life, and then you say, well, how can I find resources for that? Then you're identified with the Vaishya. Okay, so that is the caste system. So what is the caste system again? Is it something to be identified with? No. Is it something that just portrays what the human race goes through, not only through every day, but also through the stages of life? Yes. Verse 42 was just Brahman identified. So whenever you identify with your Brahmana role, then it's the one who is a guide. Like, hey, let me take you by the hand and let me lead you from A to B to C. You're a guide. You're taking responsibility, thinking for them, connecting the dots. Like, how does this fit? What is my relationship to the world's relationship to the universe relationship to Ishwara's relationship to Brahman? What is the relationship between all that? You identify with your Brahmana role. Then Kshatriya. This is verse 43. So whenever we are protective of our resources, our house, our life, our mind, whenever you want to protect your mind, you turn off the TV because it's going to carry a trail. You identify with the Kshatriya role. Okay, the executor, the one that puts the action plan together. Okay, here's what to do. Here's the steps, A, B, C. Let's put it together. It is when you identify with creativity and have a sense of confidence. So even doing some art or programming or any kind of work, then you're creative because it's the one that draws resources from their experience and puts it into the world and creates something. Verse 44 was the Vaishya. Vaishya is generating or discovering what resources are to be created. So obviously to generate, you first have to discover, and to discover, you have to think, what is important for me? So you see how they're identified. Brahmana need to be there to identify with the Vaishya. Okay, so generator or discoverer of resources. And then Shudra, as we said, is a mechanic role. So whenever we are mechanically performing something every day, do we mechanically perform things? A lot. Driving is mechanic. Waking up is mechanic. Making yourself tea or coffee is mechanic. What other examples of mechanic mode are they? The way you're sitting down is mechanic. Not sitting down any other way than the way that we've sat down or sat down before. Okay. And then verse 45, we talked about how do we convert ordinary actions into karma yoga. See, karma yoga is a huge topic, and relative to our career, we say there's 4 stages to turn our career. You may not have a career now, or maybe you may not have a career in the future, but you got one now. You may not have one now, but you will have in the future. So whenever it arises, the question then begins. How do I convert my current duty, my current ordinary mundane activities into karma yoga, whereby it's going to have so much more benefit than if I just treat it as a worldly thing to do? Okay, how do I spiritualize it, add some color, some godliness into it? And we say there's 4 stages. Firstly, we have to align ourselves, our personality, with our career. So if you tend to be a majority of a Kshatriya, the one that likes to nurture people, the one that likes to work with people, then that's the kind of work that we find. We find work that we can nurture and nourish others. If one's predisposition is to guide or to provide learnings or to solve matters, solve problems, then one finds that profession, like researchers or doctors. These are brahmanas also identified. So therefore, they align themselves with that work. So first question is, according to 1 to 10, 10 being absolute alignment, 1 being no alignment at all, where do you think you stand relative to your career? How aligned is your personality or your aptitude with your career? If it's, what should we give it? Over 6, you're in a good place. Maybe even over. Okay, 6 is a good one. Okay, so that's the first stage. We align our aptitude, our personality with our career. Stage 2, then we say, do I bring ethics into this? Do I bring a sense of responsibility into my work without having to be watched over by someone else? No question of manager or boss. I don't need that. I can do it by myself. Follow ethics. That's the second stage. Third stage is you always ask yourself the question, what am I standing for here? What larger thing am I representing here? Is it just myself, or could it be larger? Am I representing the company? Am I representing ethics? Am I representing what it means to give your heart and soul to something, even when you are not being watched over? Is it that which I stand for? So you ask yourself, what larger vision do I stand for while performing this work? Okay. Do you know? Okay, let's ask now. What larger thing are you standing for? Are you working for? Are you representing while working in your career? What is it? Who are you representing? Ishvara? Wonderful. If you're representing the nation, that's also wonderful. But the question is, there should be something that we are representing. The last stage is, having asked this question, level 4, is then you say, who am I really representing? In fact, this is the proper place to put that last statement. Who am I really representing? Okay, yes, I'm representing the house, the family, the nation. I'm representing ethics for sure. But you know what? I'm actually representing the creator of all of this, the sustainer of all of this, the destroyer of all of this. That one I am truly representing. So you can see how mundane, small activity can become powerful medicine for literally creating a deepening of our wisdom while working, while answering an email, while picking up a crate from the floor from A to B. I am actually doing this for the creator. Okay, these are the 4 stages that we have talked about. And then verse 46, the question was, is it wiser to stick with your own profession, which seems to be sometimes hard and not so joyful and so pleasant? Or is it better to look for a career that is not aligned with your nature, but provides 10 times more excitement? Valid question, right? And Krishna says it is always better to do the work that sings the tune of your aptitude, of your personality, of our nature, because that alone will create a sustainable, a long-term relationship with that work. Everything on the beginning could be exciting, absolutely. Work over there could be exciting, but through the course of time, the person will realize this is actually not, there's resistance here. It's like friction, something's not right. So this is the problem of aligning with money. What pays best? Slowly, the person says, this is rubbing off too much resistance. Let me find another good paying job. Same thing. New colleagues, exciting. But then again, that resistance. Okay, it's fine. Change another job and so on. Never really getting the benefit of stability, of spiritual benefit. So align oneself with your nature and find a way to make it interesting. Question, how do you make your work interesting? Have you thought about that? What can you do starting today to make our work more interesting? Can we spray some fragrance in our office? Hopefully it's not going to pass over to your colleagues. Can we have a phrase that we can always fall back on? Some phrase that is relative to you, something that just jolts you, gives you, invigorates us, gives us some confidence, some light, like, things are actually good here. There's no issues here. So what is that phrase? What is that one thing? Or what is that statement or knowledge that invigorates us during our so-called or seemingly boring work? Okay, so moving on, and we'll finish this section. Continuing this topic about career, verse 48. Sahajam karma kaunteya sadosham apinatyajet sarvarambha hidoshena dhumena gnirivavritaha.
O Arjuna, though defective, one should not give up the inborn duty, for all duties are covered by defect, as fire is covered by the smoke.
Sarvarambha avritaha doshena. So all professions or duties have defects, including yours, including mine. They have smoke, okay? Why do they all have defects? Because every profession involves an action, and every action by nature is limited. No action is ever complete. So it doesn't make sense to be looking for something romantic over there, because it too will display a portrait of deficiency slowly, slowly. For example, the boss that hires also has to what? The other one, fire. The judge has to give a sentence, a life sentence to someone. You think that's easy? Give a life sentence to someone. That's not easy at all. Imagine that. So the judge may enjoy, that warm, that fire-ish feeling of power, but then it's covered by smoke. I have to send this person to prison. Arjuna, go and kill, the adharmic side. Go and solve the problem. Go and do your duty. Okay, but then you also have to kill the grandsire, Bhishma and Drona, your guru and your grandsire, your grandfather. Hard. Again, smoke, fire. For every warmth that you come close to that fire, very cozy, isn't it? Especially at night. Let's all come around the fire on a cold day and you come close. This is so good. But with every fire comes smoke. And sometimes you just happen to be standing in the way of that smoke and you're taking the hit. And someone else is taking a hit. Someone else, but we all take the hit. This is what Krishna is portraying here. The wake-up call, the clarion call to God, 5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes in Muslim countries. That's okay. In fact, that's wonderful. That forces a person to focus on what's really important. But then some of us may get agitated by that. So again, there's a fire-smoke relationship. To help someone, you may tell about their deficiencies, about their blind spots, but they may not like you because you're the one that has to reveal the bad news. So you helped someone, all right, but at the price of being disliked. Okay, so again, fire, smoke. So this is what we call the zero-sum nature of reality. And Krishna says here, for this reason, because every profession comes with fire, smoke, relationship, it is unwise to give up your profession just because it has the smoke. The point is, it also has the fire. But then again, if you jump over there to a different profession, that too has smoke and it also has fire. Is this our experience? Everywhere we go in life, it's always a smoke-fire relationship. In fact, this statement applies to everything. This is a statement of the Vyavaharika world, the statement of the world of embodiment in form. So what's the solution to this? Just change our attitude towards our profession. It's not about complaining about the defects. You just say this: no profession is fire only, no profession at all. Because every profession comes with the smoke also. So we can all affirm that right now. Yes, my profession has both fire and smoke. And two, we can also see our profession as a payment to Ishvara for being alive, for being blessed with the boon of this human body. Therefore, we say this is a payment. This is service to him. This is service to the Lord. So it's an attitude. It's never about asking, what should I do? This is a common question that comes. What should I do? I'm not quite happy with my work. What should I do? No, just start asking, how can I change my attitude towards my work in such a way that it is actually going to help me and become pleasant to work with, to be in. Okay, so next verse, we'll talk about having applied this attitudinal change in respect to our career. What is the benefit of that? Verse 49, asakta buddhi sarvatra jitatma vigatas prahaha naishkarmya siddhim paramam sanyasena dhigachati.
One who has self-mastery, whose intellect is detached from everything and who is free from desires, attains the supreme goal of actionlessness through renunciation.
Confusing statement here, potentially. It says one whose intellect is detached from everything. Is that possible? To get anything done in this world, if your intellect was, let's put an adjective there, completely detached. Can you then interact with the world if it's completely detached? No. So obviously you have to fill in the adjective there. What does it mean to be detached? It means objectively detached. Explaining. So in chapter 3, verse 4 and 5, Krishna said to Arjuna that it is impossible to attain moksha if one lets go or renounces all actions in the world. Because what's going to happen is your samskaras are going to then just lie dormant, and it's going to produce a emotional complexion, a problem. So we're going to be thinking, even if we're alone and not doing anything, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And it's going to come in all forms of anger and all sorts of negative emotions. So what Krishna says to Arjuna, instead of ceasing to do actions in this world, rather give up wrong actions. We call this nishidha karma. Actions that are not complying or not bringing harmony to the environment. Krishna also said to Arjuna, align your, as we just explained, your profession to your aptitude, to your personality. Instead of giving up, rather find something that is compatible with your personality. Or look at all professions, including your profession right now, as a means to mind purification. So how do we usually look at a profession? It's a means to make money, right? Okay, but that's an incidental byproduct, isn't it, of working? But what's the real, according to the Bhagavad Gita, what's the real reason for working in this world? Knowing now that the highest goal is moksha, and moksha will take place, we need mind purity. Therefore, everything becomes a means to the final end, mind purity. Antakarana shuddhi. Okay, so again, instead of giving up actions, expecting to have a quiet life, because it's a common thing that goes on, just give up all actions and you have a silenced mind, that teaching. Just give up all, don't be involved in the world, and eventually you have a very silenced mind. It doesn't work, because the problem is vasanas just keep pouring nonstop. So therefore, to suit them, we have to align our work with our aptitude and our personality. And then the scriptures have an analogy for this. They say, just like if you throw gold into fire, then the gold with all of its impurities, what's going to happen to those impurities? They're going to fall off, right? So just like that, if you throw your actions using your intellect, which is why it says here, have your intellect attached, but for the reasons of antakarana shuddhi, that is called a detached intellect. So what is detached intellect? Ironically, it is an attached intellect, but for the sake of mind purification and giving up wrong actions. So having said that, just like if you throw gold into the fire and it removes all the impurities, in that same manner, when we throw our actions into the Kurukshetra field, which is what we do every day, then having done it with ethics, with throwing those actions with ethics into the field, what it's going to do? It's going to purify our minds, because we are responsibly giving to the field of action. Therefore, it's always reinforcing that ethics, and ethics always reinforces that process of the intelligence that's holding that together, which is Ishvara. Therefore, it's keeping our minds on Ishvara. Okay, so again, like I said last week, this is called putting your Vedanta goggles on. Just like a metaphor or something. You need some gesture to remind you. Any day, you can just go throughout the day, just go like this. And what am I seeing when I go like this? I see, all around me, it is not just the jiva walking. It's not just the person walking. It is a transmigrating jiva. It has traveled so many bodies. And that jiva is illumined by the same self that I am illumined by, that this mind is illumined by right now. Forget about the physical body. You're looking at a jiva who is genderless. And that jiva is a product of having traveled so many lifetimes, taking so many bodies. Does this change your relationship with people? Think about it. If you start to see it, instead of looking female, male, you're literally looking at a mind. A mind is just traveled and traveled and traveled and traveled. And eventually it comes to Vedanta and recognizes, I want to stop traveling. Let's solve the problem. You see through the Vedanta goggles. Not only that, you also see the three gunas acting all around us. You see the revealing power. When we learn something new, then we go, oh, wow, I'm so happy now. That's called sattva guna, macrocosmic sattva guna, the revealing power, that which reveals knowledge. You see individuality all around you. That is called tamaguna, that which hides or conceals. We see this world being put together and held together right now. That is a product of rajaguna. And this is the product, these three gunas, a product of what we call Ishvara. Okay, so we put our Vedanta goals and we start to see the world through Vedantic scriptures, through the Vedantic knowledge that we're learning in the class. Okay, so this is the benefit of converting our profession into, or spiritualizing our profession, thereby reminding us of what is really going on throughout this world. And this is how you contemplate without contemplating. Contemplate without contemplating. Just convert your work into a spiritual practice by seeing through Vedanta goggles. Okay, what happens if we don't put on our Vedanta goggles? Well, we all know that. Then our ancient samskaras start to interpret the world, start to judge, start to opinionate, start to give different reasons why things are like this, how things should be and shouldn't be. So this means we have to interrupt that by some conscious process. Verse, Vigata sprahaha. Who else attains the highest goal? The one that is free from personal desires, personal fancies, that one. The question is, why is that one free of personal desires? What kind of desires? Binding desires, those that chain us and we have to do it or else. That's called a binding desire. Absolute rule that we create for ourselves. Because the individual recognizes there is nothing in this world that can give me ultimate satisfaction. It's all just coming and going. This is the first reason. Nothing really is worthy of approach except God alone, that which is limitless. That's the first reason. Okay, and this recognition produces what? We call this objectivity. What is objectivity? Seeing the intrinsic value of things versus the value that we give it. We use the example of gold. What's the intrinsic value of gold, please? It's rare, malleable, and it's yellow. This is a fact. What is a non-intrinsic value of gold? What is a personal value of the gold? It's a status symbol. It means popularity. It means importance. Is any of this true? No. Okay, so only intrinsic value is true. So what is objectivity? You always come back to what are the facts versus what I want it to be for me. Even a person, what is the fact? What can this person really give me and what can this person not give me? That is a fact. If we don't know that, what are we going to do? We're going to start asking an individual to give us something that they don't have the capacity to give. Why? Because we've fallen out of objectivity. Okay, so gaining this objectivity is called, per the verse, Jit Atma, which is self-mastery. In other words, a contemplative mind. A contemplative mind means what? The mind that thinks what is the intrinsic value and doesn't fall for its personal value. Verse continues, and consequently, Paramam Naish Karmya Siddhim. So having thought like this for some time, the highest, the supreme goal of actionlessness is attained. So actionlessness, are we talking about? We're talking about a Jivan Muktaha. And the question is how to arrive to a Jivan Muktaha. There's an order. First, convert ordinary actions into Karma Yoga. How? We told you the 4 levels. Karma Yoga purifies the mind. Okay, and that purity of the mind then gives way to Jnana-Yoga, self-knowledge, which is the next section we're going to do. And that leads into what's called Jnana-Nishta, firm knowledge within the Buddhi. Okay, so now the question is, what is it that this firm Buddhi understands? What does a mind of a Jivan Muktaha understand? It understands that whatever is shining, whatever is making this Buddhi conscious right now, is I. The one self that is making all minds conscious right now. It's the one same I, one same self, Atma. So not only is it making this mind conscious, it's also making this self-inquiry. Where is the self-inquiry happening? It's happening in the mind. Who is making that self-inquiry conscious? I am. What about the body? What does the actions? The body does the actions. Who acquires the punya papam? The body does. So the body, the punya papam, the mind, that is the antakarana, and the self-inquiry, including the question, who am I? All of that is just contents of the mind. And who and because of whom is all of that awared, known, because of this one self, I, which is always the same for all individuals. So even if you're listening right now and going, this is interesting, who is illumining that thought that says, this is interesting? I. I don't get it. Who is illumining that thought? I don't get it. I. Okay, so it's always the one same self. So we have come out of our Swadharma duty. We are now going to go between verse 50 and 55. What does this section consist of? Jnana-Yoga, in reference to specifically Nididhyasana. So we're not going to get into the ins and outs of who I am and so on. We've already done that, but on the last stage. Verse 50. Siddhim prapto yatha brahma tathapnoti nibodhame samase naiva kaunteya nishtha jnanasya ya para.
O Arjuna, briefly know from me how one who has attained purity, anakarna suddhi, attains Brahman, which is supreme culmination of knowledge.
What is Jnana-Yoga? To describe this, you always have to start with 3 questions. Jnana-Yoga consists of 3 steps. Shravanam. What is Shravanam? It is a systematic and consistent study of the Vedantic scriptures for a length of time under the guidance of one who has already ascertained the vision and figured it out through a large amount of self-inquiry. In fact, this applies to any kind of teaching. If you want to learn Spanish, do you go to a German teacher? No, you go to a Spanish teacher. Do you go to a sort of a beginner Spanish teacher, or someone that's not only taught, but figured out the way to lead their students to the most effective way of grasping the language? To who do you go to? You go to the one that who has mastered that topic, who just specializes that topic, whose nature is aligned with that topic. So what does systematic mean? It means step by step. There's no going here, there, left, right. It's just, there's an order: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then we revise. What is A referring to? What is B referring to? What is C referring to? So it's like mathematics. So Jnana-Yoga is literally like mathematics. Okay, before doing the multiplication and division and all the hard stuff and exponents and fractions, come back and do just simple addition and subtraction, which is called, in this case, karma yoga, and values, qualifying the mind. Also a length of time, not short, because we have a lifetime of samskaras to get through. So therefore, it has to be a length of time because our mind tends to revert to the old. Okay. And then mananam. This is recollecting the words like Atma. What does Atma mean? You say this to yourself. What does Brahman mean? What is Sat Chit? What does these words mean? What is Ananda referring to? What is non-duality? You just bring one word to your mind and you ask, how much do I understand about this? What does this mean right now? Not according to what the scriptures are saying. What does this mean to me, the individual? This is mananam. Recollecting the Vedantic words. Putting the scriptures aside, please. That belongs in Shravanam. For a moment, putting that aside, asking, what does this word mean? How much do I understand about this? How much do I understand what Ishvara means, what Maya means, what the Three Gunas means, what the 5 koshas mean? What does this mean? Okay, so my question is, how much are you doing this? Are you taking words once in a while, recollecting these words, bringing it to your mind, and inquiring for at least 10 minutes? 5 minutes at least, a minute at least. If yes, you're in a stage of mananam. This also involves resolving doubts. So once we recollect these words, if there's one doubt, we write it down, because I promise you, you're not going to remember. If you don't write it down, write it down. If you write it down, you'll be so glad to have written it down, because there's nothing better than going, oh, actually now I understand this. It was a doubt, I couldn't figure it out, but now I read this, I'm actually improving. If we don't journal our journey, then we won't know whether we are moving forward or not. And that's going to discourage us. Get used to writing things down. Pull out the phone, type it onto the phone, and bullet points, and just keep it there. And then Nididhyasana. So this is dwelling upon the teaching which is taking place in Shravanam and all of your insights gained during Mananam, dwelling upon that over and over and over and over. Did I say over? Yes, I said over again. Why over and over again? Because, as we said, we got the samskara stream behind us, right? Pushing you into the old ways, old ways, old ways. You have to fight that. How? Through consistent self-inquiry, involvement, reading, listening, demonstrating, mind mapping, paraphrasing, rewriting, translating, All of these are wonderful methods of Nididhyasana. Again, what is Nididhyasana? How is it performed? There is also open eyes meditation. There's also closed eye meditation. All of these methods are up to you. How do you become a master at something? How do you become a master at something? That is Nididhyasana. That method that is applied to you. My method is mind maps and pictures, connecting the dots. How does this and drag the arrow over there, drag the arrow over there? Has to make all perfect sense. What is your method of becoming a master at some topic? Do you know? Are you applying it? Yes, Rani?
Andre, is it similar to practicing over and over again?
Exactly the same.
Yeah, it becomes easier.
Your style, by the way, you cannot say one style because everyone's got a different personality. So what is your style? As I said before, do mind maps and talking about it and sharing it to friends and having little discussion groups, teaching it, and all of these methods that bring that knowledge over is Nididhyasana. And in reference to chapter 6, we've got Dharana. This is closed eye meditation Nididhyasana. So there's open eyes and there's closed eyes. What about closed eyes? Well, let's go to the last 3 stages of Ashtanga Yoga. Dharana means bringing something into your mind. Like what? Quote, I am the awareing principle. You bring that one single teaching into the mind. Dharana. So what is Dharana? For the first time, bringing it into your mind. Now, is your mind going to stay there? No, it's going to go elsewhere. So that's why we now try to bring our minds back onto I am the awareing principle. You bring that knowledge into your mind. When it becomes easier, then it transforms into what we call dhyana. Now it's the meditation. You're having an easier time keeping this in your mind. That's called dhyana. However, we're still fighting, aren't we? What should I cook? Where should I go? Oh no, is my fridge empty? Is it full? When's the next time to go shopping? Okay. Is my heater on? What level is it on? Is it 1, 2, 3? Smallest detail interrupt us. When all of these details come out eventually, then you go into the next stage called samadhi. Effortless, only I am the awareing principle. I am the awareing principle. And you're delving, you're immersed, effortlessly absorbed in that one simple teaching that the person was having such a hard time retaining only an hour ago. Yes, it takes that long for the mind to calm down. So you can see why we even have asana before. Because imagine you need 30 minutes to calm that mind from dharana, where you're fighting it, bringing it over. Dog. No, I'm the awareing principle. Giraffe. And then giraffe reminds you of spots. And now spots, I remember sometime in school, someone's drawing spots. And now school friends come over into your mind. You're doing this for an hour fighting. Is it easy to sit like this for an hour, for let's say 30 minutes? It's not easy. That's why we say asana, first one. Imagine fighting for 30 minutes and my knees are sore, can't even hold my back straight, which is why we always start with asana. So why? Because Patanjali Yoga Sutra has already figured out you're probably not going to get into samadhi within 10 minutes. No way. An hour at least, 1 hour and a half at least. To retain that long, you must have a position. You must be in a position where you're able to be okay with your body being erect for at least an hour. That's the logic of why asana comes before you got pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. This is closed eye meditation. Bring a concept into the mind, sit down, let the mind calm down, at least 30 minutes, 15 minutes. Start small, of course, not 30 minutes or 1 hour. Start small, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 36 minutes. There's a book called Atomic Habits. It says if you really want to get into a new habit, start microscopic small, like 1 second meditation, like this. Okay, done. Yes, I've done it. I've meditated. Next time, now you already get that joy, that dopamine. Yes, I've done it. Okay, now tomorrow, 5 seconds. Yes, I've done it, 5 seconds. Okay, it works like crazy. It works really well. By the way, when you put sugar into your tea and you don't mix, is your tea sweet? No. Why not? You got the sugar in there, a sugar cube. Why is it not sweet? Because I have not applied effort and mixed and mixed and mixed. And I'm getting tired. Oh, my shoulder's so, my brain is so tired contemplating. I have not done that long enough until that knowledge of fluid that I've been developing has not mixed with my personality. Therefore, what is Nididhyasana? It is like a sugar cube put inside your mind, and now you have to mix it. How? Through effort. How else do you mix? Do you call someone else over? No, because they're busy mixing their stuff. Okay, so Nididhyasana is mixing stuff. Rani, why is you laughing? Again, how do we arrive to Jnana-Yoga? Same process. Karma Yoga, qualify the mind, Jnana-Yoga, Jnana-Nishta. Jnana-Nishta is the knowledge has been firmly established, firmly ascertained. What is Jnana-Nishta? The culmination of knowledge. What is culmination of knowledge? Culmination is a firm conclusion. I am free of the world. Okay? The self is whole, complete, non-dual, actionless, existence awareness. And that I am. When it's firm, what happens then? What kind of life do you have then? Exactly the kind of life you had before. Nothing changes. According to your prarabdha, the kind of personality you have, that's the kind of life you're going to live. You can be single, married, work, not work, go to the forest, go to the Himalaya, whatever you want. No different than before. Effortless availability of para apara prakriti, of self, not self, atma and atma. Effortless, especially during crisis. In fact, during crisis, it is more effortlessly known than when things are happy. You know why? Because when things are happy, the mind's sattvic, and it mixes that sattvic happiness with the joy of self. And you're like, oh, you know, everything's kind of life is happy. But when there's darkness in life and the mind's gloomy, in contrast to that gloominess, the light of me, the self, is bright, is shining so bright. And therefore, even during gloominess, especially, the knowledge of self shines louder than every loss experienced in the world. It shines louder than every pain put together. Even though it's in the mind, you still know who you are even more than when you are happy, than when your body's happy, when your mind's happy. That's called Jnana-Nishta. Okay, the light of self is shining through all sorrow, through all joys, all the time, effortless availability. Okay, verse 51 and 52, topic will be how to perform Nididhyasana. How specifically do we do Nididhyasana, the last stage of Jnana-Yoga? Okay, 51 and 52 combine. Buddhya vishuddhaya yuktaha, dhrityatmanam niyam yacha, Shabdadi dishayam styaktva, ragadveshau vyudasyacha, viviktasevi lagvashi, yatavak kaya manasaha, dhyana yoga paro nityam, vairagyam samupashritaha.
Endowed with a clear intellect, having restrained the mind by will or firm resolve, having renounced the sense objects like sounds, one should give up binding, likes and dislikes. Who lives in a quiet place, who eats lightly, whose speech, body, mind are mastered, taking to contemplation, dispassion, one should be ever devoted to Jnana-Yoga.
I'll take us through all of these words. This is a checklist prior to meditation. So before we meditate, whether it's with open eyes or closed eyes, you're asking what fundamental steps should be there before attempting Nididhyasana. So again, before going, what is Nididhyasana? It consists of two things: open eyes, that's self-inquiry, and closed eyes in the form of Ashtanga yoga. So verse 51 and 52 that we're doing now is going to tell us about preparatory steps before actually inquiring or meditating with open eyes or closed eyes. So what are these preparatory steps? Vishuddhaya buddhya. The mind is endowed with a clear intellect. What does this mean? What does a clear intellect firstly understand? It understands that the purpose of Vedantic meditation is not to have a silent mind. This is the one part that Advaita disagrees with yoga philosophy. You're not meant to have a silent mind because then you're just suppressing the unresolved issues. So firstly, there's clarity about that. It's not a question of silencing the mind in samadhi. In fact, samadhi purpose is to contemplate without distraction, without the mind's impending thoughts, first thing. It also involves bringing a teaching. What does a clear intellect understand? You need to bring a teaching before meditating. Otherwise, what are you going to meditate on? Which means you have to first get educated. Om Tat Sat. We said the definitions of Om Tat Sat in chapter 16. What does Om mean? What does Tat mean? What does Sat mean? What is it referring to? We first have to hear the teaching and then meditate based on what we heard. But how does it go today in some cases? We're just getting to meditate. On what? Okay. Firstly, get educated. What else is the clear intellect endowed with? It's endowed with the 3 pillars of Adanta, which are, what are the 3 pillars of Vedanta? To understand the entire reality, you have to understand Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. Do you understand what is Jiva referring to? Jagat, Ishvara. Understand what's the nature of samsara. Samsara is not all dark and gloomy. It's also brightness. There's also love in samsara, which is wonderful, but it doesn't last. That's why it's called samsara. Oh, it's okay. I can just go one more time. Okay, you can do that. But then again, you go through the consequences of that too. Oh, it's okay. I'll just go another one. I'll just keep on doing it over and over again. It's okay. Your mind will eventually come to a stage and recognize the fruitlessness of following such a course of action. What is Jiva referring to? What is Ishvara referring to? What is Jagat referring to? To answer this, you always start from the highest reality. What's the highest reality? Step 1. So what am I giving now? I'm going to give you a model of the entire Vedanta in a shorthand form to answer the 3 pillars of Vedanta, which expounds the entire vision of the whole. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. What's the highest reality? Brahman. Step 2, you ask, what is Brahman? Describe. Existence awareness. Step 3, you say, this existence awareness enjoys a potential, enjoys a capacity within itself to manifest out of itself plurality. This capacity is called Maya. Step, okay, I don't know what step we're on. Next step, this Maya, when it manifests forms, multiple forms, by borrowing Sat-Chit, existence awareness, it creates the entire universe of forms called Jagat. Now we answered what is Jagat. Still have to answer what is Jiva and what is Ishvara. This Jagat consists of 2 objects, sentient and insentient. The insentient and the sentient are just 5 pancha bhutani, the 5 elements. When it comes to the Jiva, that's called the sentient. Now we call the answer, what is Jagat, what is Jiva? The sentient, what is the difference between sentient and insentient? Insentient has the 5 elements, sentient has the 5 elements, insentient has the 5 elements, but the sentient, that means that which is alive, has 1 more, as the subtle body. What is the subtle body? Sukshma Sharira, that which can reflect consciousness and therefore give it self-awareness. So we have answered Jagat, we have answered Jiva. Now, when this Jiva finds themselves in the world, in this Jagat, and observes through its 5 organs of perception, what is this world made of? What is my relationship to this world? What am I made of as a body? What is this world made of? What is everything made of? This Jiva then says, the one who created this world is called the creator of the world, Ishvara. Now we answered Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. And this Ishvara is called the cause of the universe. Therefore, the question is, what is Ishvara? What does Ishvara stand for? You go back to the highest reality. Ishvara is Brahman being conditioned by his power of Maya, which is able to take existence awareness to manifest thousands upon thousands of forms, which the Jiva, being sentient in nature, upon the observation of those forms, has to give it a name for the sake of interacting with those forms and teaching those forms to other Jivas. Therefore, we call it Nama Rupa. Okay, that has been answered. Secondly, that the Buddhi has to understand is Brahman Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivaha Brahma Na Eva Aparaha. What does this mean? Brahma Na Eva Aparaha. Okay. So Brahman is the truth. Brahman is the truth. The world is apparent. The Jiva, you put an asti there. Asti, that's always an invisible asti in Sanskrit. So Brahman Satyam Asti. So Brahman is asti, the truth. Jagat Mithya Asti, the world is apparent. The Jiva is truly not different from Brahmanaha, just add an ablative case, Brahmanaha, truly not different from Brahman, okay? That is the direct translation of this summary of Adi Shankara. Brahman Satyam, Jagat Mithya, Jiva Brahmaiva. I know you said Brahmaiva, but you break that down into Sanya. Therefore, Brahmana eva aparaha. Now, what does this mean in reality? It means existence awareness is the final reality. The world being of existence awareness too cannot be different from the final reality. The Jiva being not different from the world too is made out of the same elements, therefore thus cannot be different from the final reality. Therefore, whether you look at the Jagat, whether you look at the Jiva, both of them are only modifications by the power of this capacity within Brahma to manifest themselves, which then we call on the macrocosm, we call this Brahman, we call it Jagat. On the microcosm, we call this Brahman Jiva. Okay, so again, what does this statement mean? Existence awareness is the final reality. The world is also belonging or of this Brahman. Therefore, the world cannot be different from the final reality. And the Jiva too, being not different from the world, too resolves in the final reality called existence awareness. Therefore, you're always ever referring to the final reality, existence awareness, modifying itself in a form of the Jiva, modifying itself in the form of the Jagat. What is Brahma Satyam Jagat Nitya Jiva Brahmaivana Paraha? What does that mean? Existence awareness is the final reality. There's nothing higher than existence awareness. The world, the Jagat, not being different from that existence awareness, too resolves in that existence awareness. The Jagat and the Jiva, belonging to the same order of reality, also resolve into the final reality called Satyam, which is Brahman, the truth. Therefore, there is only one truth manifesting in different forms. Okay, next is Vivikta Sevi. What else should the person engage before meditating? This is part of verse 52. Living in a quiet place. What does this imply? To live in a quiet place? Does this imply putting on noise cancellation headphones? Maybe. That's a shorthand form. No, it means you've settled accounts with the world. Okay. Sometimes we just flock into spirituality as an escape. Settled accounts with parents, settled accounts with work, settled accounts with money, settled accounts with society, settled accounts with so many things. When we're settled accounts, then we can pursue this. Otherwise, if we've unsettled our accounts with the world, they're going to bug us and they're going to interrupt our Nididhyasana, our meditation. Lagu Ashi, eating proper foods, sattvic foods. We've discussed this in chapter 17. Yatavak Kaya Manasaha. This is speech, body, and mind are mastered. How do you master your speech, body, and mind? Well, there's many methods, right? Therapy methods, karma yoga method, objectivity method, looking at the intrinsic value versus the personal value method. These are all methods to master. Thinking before we speak is another method. Pausing before we answer. Getting educated in lots of courses, like I use short form. There's a great iOS app called Short Form, and it summarizes books for you. So you can look at any book, any topic, and you just get a 25, 45-minute summary, and you learn so much about that topic called Short Form. It goes into the thorough details of every book. And then finally, Raga Dveshau, Krishna warns that the meditation can only be done, how? By solving our likes and dislikes, okay? Resolving our likes and dislikes, which is typical. If you got likes and dislikes for the world, I'll be thinking about worldly things. So we have to first look at what's the real value of this thing that keeps on jumping into my mind. My question is there something in your mind that keeps on jumping and agitating you over and over again every day? Okay. If it is, if you wake up, what's the first thing that you think about when you wake up? Is it some thought that you wish were just not there at all? If there is, then start asking the question, what is the real intrinsic value of this? As long as something keeps on popping up in our minds, even though we know there's no use, I already resolved everything about it, but why does it keep on popping up? If it still keeps on popping up, you haven't asked the question, what can this really do for me? What can it not do for me? What is the real intrinsic value of this? As long as there is a personal investment in something, that something will keep popping up in the mind over and over again. Okay? What doesn't pop up in your mind? Those things that we have no investment in. Isn't this true? We're not invested in them, so they don't pop up in our minds. What pops up in our mind? Those things that we have an emotional connection with. How do you reduce that emotional connection? Make it normal, not so entangled, enmeshed. Start asking, what is the intrinsic value of this person, of this thing? Who are they factually? Let's get the facts right. Okay? Otherwise, with expectations that we put them on a pedestal or put something on a pedestal, and this annoys us because it doesn't comply with the reality. It is out of reality. Anything out of reality agitates us. Anything with reality simply doesn't come up into our perception. Now, Ashtanga Yoga. That was all open eye preparation, but also closed eye preparation. Now let's talk about Ashtanga Yoga. Let's put these verse 51 and 52 in the aspect of Ashtanga Yoga. Asana, step 1. So I'll give you 5 steps. Obviously, before thinking, be in a comfortable place. Is your body comfortable? Okay, how do you want to sit to be comfortable? Ask yourself, could I sit like this for the next 1 hour? Okay, if you're like this, could I sit like this for the next one? No, my back's going to start hurting, my shoulder's going to start hurting, my neck's going to start hurting. Okay, then adjust yourself to be able to sit like that for as long as possible. If someone had a gun to your head and said, you got to be like that for 10 hours, how would you position yourself? Okay, you would have to find a really great method, right, to sit. Step 2, niyamya atmanam driktva. Having restrained the mind by will. How do we restrain the mind by willpower? In this case, we call it pranayama, breath control. That's the fastest way to restrain a mind that is on a tangent. Sit down and start breathing using pranayama methods. We're not going to teach it, it's just a revision. Step 3 is tyaktva vishayan shabdadin. So having renounced sense objects. How do you renounce sense objects? This is called Pratyahara. What is Pratyahara involved? How do we renounce sense objects? Before meditating, remind yourself, every sound that I hear, like a dog barking, is going to be my cue to focus on my object of meditation. It's a self-affirmation you give yourself. Okay, if we don't do this, what's going to happen? It's going to get taken away by the noise of the world. Okay, so before meditating, what's one of the steps to do? Give yourself a self-affirmation. Any distraction is going to be a reminder to focus even more on my object of meditation, to concentrate even more. Therefore, we take distractions as our friends of reminders. Step 4 is samupashritaha vairagyam. Taking to dispassion, temporarily suspending your role. Are you a wife? Are you a husband? Are you a daughter? A wife? No, you're not. Suspending all roles completely. For the moment time being, I am no one's wife. I am no one's husband. I am no one's mom. I'm no one's dad. I am just a meditator who's bringing knowledge into my mind to focus on it firmly, concentrate. This is called dharana. Dharana. What is dharana? Disidentifying temporarily from all of your roles, just to bring that concentration into the mind. And then finally, step 5 is Jnana-Yoga parahanityam. That one who meditates should ever be devoted to Dhyana Yoga. Ever devoted, that means forever. So what does this mean? Can you forever close your eyes? No, that's why you have to look into these scriptural statements. Ever devoted to Dhyana Yoga. So Dhyana Yoga cannot by definition be referring to closed eyes, because how can you close your eyes all the time? It has to also involve what? Open eyes. Therefore, open eyes, what does this involve? What is dhyana open eyes? Inquire into the teaching. Bring a word and think about it. Go back to the model that I explained and talk about it. Think about it. Closed eyes, set an intention. And close your eyes and meditate. Bring in the teaching. What is changing? What is unchanging? What is moving? What is unmoving? What is ever present? What is modifying? Bring that into dhyana. Verse 53. Ahankaram balam darpam kamam krodham parigraham vimuchya nirmamah shantaha brahma bhuyaya kalpate.
Having given up misplaced I sense, power, arrogance, vainfulness, desire, anger, and possession, being free from mind notion, and remaining tranquil, one becomes fit for becoming Brahman.
So during the stage of Nididhyasana, which we just talked about in verse 51 and 52, what will happen? Demons will come knocking on your door. Hey, I want to agitate you. I want to annoy you. Hey, look at me. You're like, no, leave me alone. I'm trying to meditate here. Okay, what are these demons? What are these asuri, sampat, as we talked about in chapter 16, chapter 17? Ahankaram. During meditation, whether open eyes or closed eyes, what's going to happen? Some thought from the past of some person that's hurt us or said something is going to pop up. And this pain will come. Okay, past beliefs, memories, that will all come and bug us. What Krishna is saying is, every time it comes, use this as a cue to simply bring your mind back onto the self-inquiry. You can do this because you're endowed with free will. Balam, playing power games, okay, wishing to be seen as an accomplished meditator, wishing to be known as an accomplished yogi, wishing to be known as one who never makes mistakes. Well, I don't make any mistakes. Put up a show. This is dangerous. Darpam, arrogance. I am self-made. I'm a self-made yani. I'm a self-made Jivan Mukta. No, you're not. I'm a self-made millionaire. See, there is context for these words, sometimes, but why say this? I mean, it's clearly not self-made. We've got so much help from other people. Okay, so don't fall for this. Whenever you fall for this, I'm so accomplished. I've got Vedantic knowledge and others are so much more to catch up on. Okay, this is dangerous. And so we just stop ourselves and we say, this is one of those dangers that Krishna is pointing out. Kama, what's going to happen? Desire for worldly objects will transcend or tend to override our interest for Vedantic study. Oh, there's a soap opera coming up at 6 o'clock. Let's turn on the TV. Finishes, and now you don't feel like meditating anymore. Okay, lost time. Okay, so Karma Yoga, we will feel like not implementing Karma Yoga because it's so easy just to do something. Even bringing it and saying this is Lord's work, this is going to the field of the Lord, even that one statement is hard because it's so much easier to revert onto what we've already thought about. Just do the work and move on. Krodha, anger is going to pop in. Self-criticism is going to pop in. Pertaining to what? Returning to the old ways. I've been studying this for so long and I'm my progress is so slow. Anger, self-criticism. I'm not a good devotee, a student. This is krodha, self-criticism. Finding it hard to retain knowledge. Another self-criticism. I can't hold this. In real life, it just leaves out the door. What's wrong with me? Self-criticism. Okay, life is seemingly unfair. Those who are close to me are not understanding this knowledge. Anger. Another thing to watch out for. You may care about your wife or your husband or your child, but they may not be into Vedanta at all. They may not ascertain this vision at all. They may think it's just goofy. It's what is this mumbo jumbo, new age, hocus pocus. Okay, and this can make us angry because we care about them, right? So another trap to watch out for. Understand, every jiva has the right to their opinion. Everyone's on a different path. Even if you're close family members every day spending face to face, they're literally on a different path than you. Even though on the surface level, it seems like you're on the same wavelength, but still they have different path. And we have to respect that. So right now, my brother, my sister, my mother, my father, my uncle, my cousins, my aunties, all of them, as close as I am to them, we need to right now affirm they have a individual different journey than I do. And they may not agree necessarily with what I do. We need to affirm that right now to prepare yourself. If we don't prepare ourselves, then when it comes, it's too late. We get angry. Parigraham. Another danger is surrounding oneself with objects or possessions to be happy. What's the solution to this? Just simplify your life, okay? We don't need to make it so kind of, extravagant and flamboyant and so on. Simplify life. Nirmamaha. Another danger to watch out for is a sense of ownership or possessiveness. This is called wrapping mamakara samskara. Mamakara, this is minus, putting my onto objects. Mine, my knowledge, my understanding, my contemplation, my success, my fame, my name. Watch out for this. Yes, it is yours, but also you have to include another aspect. Whose else is it? It's Bhagavan's also. It is yours, but it's also Bhagavan's. Okay, and what does this do? What kind of effects does this produce in a person? Verse, Shantaha, tranquility of the mind. What does tranquility of the mind allow us? To contemplate about the nuances of life. What kind of nuances of life? Well, pertaining to the self, I, existence awareness, am not a part, product, or property of this body. I, existence awareness, am not bound by the boundaries of this body. I, existence awareness, continue to survive after the body, after the death of this body. Those kinds of nuances, understanding them and being comfortable with these nuances. Okay, and this Mahavakya, when we say Aham Brahmanasmi, this Mahavakya, what does it mean? Do you say out loud Aham Brahmanasmi? No. If the jnani's internal process were to be amplified on a loudspeaker, what would that sound like? I, existence, awareness, is the truth alone of this entire universe. So this Aham Brahmanasmi, I am Brahman, all it means is if the process of the jnani were to be amplified, what kind of understanding would they be having at the back of the mind? I am Brahman. I am the final reality. We just explained why here. So that's what Aham Brahmanasmi relates to. It's not meant to be used as an affirmation. Here, say Aham Brahmanasmi and just repeat it 5 times per day. No. Firstly, we understand why you are Brahman, and then as a form of reminder, you say Aham Brahman Asmi. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nashochati Nakangshati Samak Sarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labhate Param.
Having become Brahman, I, identity shift within Buddhi. The tranquil-minded one neither grieves nor longs for anything. Being the same towards all beings, he attains supreme devotion towards me.
Brahma Bhutaha. So having become, in quotes, having become Brahman by the means of firm knowledge, obviously by the means of pramana. Now the question comes is, how does the jiva know that their understanding is firm? How does a jiva know that, if one could call themselves a jiva muktaha, even though jiva muktaha is not going to say that, how does a jiva know, what are the indicators to understand that you have finally got the full knowledge? So that's what this verse is talking about. So what are the indicators of a jiva muktaha, a jnani or a jnanini? How do we truly know if this knowledge is final and there's no more rebirth as a consequence? Prasanna atma. There is a reassured state of mind. So what does a reassured state of mind mean? What would cause your mind to be reassured, especially during crisis? What would you have to know for your mind to be reassured about everything during crisis? You would have to know a bigger vision of life, right? Reassured state of mind. You cannot have that through emotions. It has to be knowledge. You have to have some kind of knowledge during crisis to be reassured during crises. Therefore, being reassured during crises, this is another way of saying frequency of disappointments comes down, because yet that knowledge is holding you so firm that it just doesn't allow that intensity or frequency of disappointments to come so much. Before, small things in the world don't work out, that's it, we're disappointed. But now you say, it's the world, okay? It's the world. The world's going through its stage. Therefore, frequency comes down. The Jivan Muktaha also understands, I am free of this world, ultimately. Right now, I'm free of this world. I'm free of this problem, of this body, of this aging world, of these changes. All of this I'm totally, utterly free of. It's just an incidental process coming and going while inheriting this body. They also know this. They also simplify their life, which minimizes drama. which is another reason why frequency of disappointments comes down. In fact, one doesn't have to be a Jivan Muktaha for this. Just simplify life. Okay. They also understand first, before complaining, the first truth that comes is Satchit. Even a dog or a bird that is annoying, first thing, the first recognition is what? Satchit, and then the 5 koshas. Because what is closest to the closest? To both the seer and the seen. What is closest to the seer? Satchit. What is closest to the seen? Satchit. Only then, if you want to put an order to it, I understand and I get so-called agitated by the koshas, by the personality, by the loudness, by the so on. So Jivan Muktaha first recognizes before anything, Satchit, Brahman, and if you want to put a process to it, then the process of the personality shines through. Whereas how is it for an Ajnani, a non-enlightened person? Instantly, they focus on the 5 koshas, totally missing out on that which is closest. It is just existence awareness manifesting as that form. That is an understanding. Therefore, a Jivan Muktaha first recognizes, before complaining to wife, child, mom, dad, Satchit. And then you can start to interact with all of the other things. Not shochati, neither grieves. So not easily overpowered by sorrow. What would you have to know to not be easily overpowered by sorrow? You would have to know something bigger than what is going on right now. Okay, someone close to you dies. What would, despite mourning and grieving, what would keep you strong and upright during that process? You would have to know something. Therefore, intensity of thoughts and words comes down. Okay, the intensity of thought and verbal expressions comes down. Why me? Why this? Why that? It comes down. The intensity, it's still there, but it comes down. Before it was like, no, but now it's like, just a gasp. And then what? So what? What? So what? Okay. What is that first initial reaction? But what comes immediately after? The buddhi. You know what? So what? What? You know what? So what? Okay. Not kangshati, nor desires. Okay. So obviously they have desires, but it says nor desire. What do you mean by nor desires? The desire for personal gain that has been subdued and converted into desire for giving. Therefore, desires are still there, very much, but they're in the aspect of what can I give? What can I contribute? How can I make harmony in this place? Okay, so their binding desires are reduced. Why is the jnani's binding desires reduced? Because the jnani understands there's nothing for me to gain or to lose here. Who's gaining or losing? The body is. The mind is. Not I. I'm free. This is also very strong for a Jivan Muktaha. Okay? Nothing to gain, nothing to lose. Before, I'm going to gain so much by having a relationship, having so much by being rich, going to gain so much by becoming something. But now, is this really according to my nature? No, I'm not interested. Where can I go and serve? Next is Samaha Sarveshu Bhuteshu. They remain objective towards all beings. Remain objective towards all beings. What would you have to do? What would it look like if you were to be objective towards all beings? Think about this now. What would that look like? What would that mean to be objective towards all beings? Okay, how do we be not objective? How are we not objective? Jiva Srishti, right? Personal notions. So what is objectivity? You look at the facts. What is going on? Be specific. If you want to put a specific to it, be specific versus generalizing. There, you see one little defect in a person and they would generalize the person as a defect. Be specific. What exactly am I annoyed about? Param madbhaktim labhate, has supreme devotion towards me, towards the Lord. So Jivan Muktaha Bhakti, the Jivan Mukta's devotion is the highest, is the closest towards the reality. Why? Because the worshipper and the worshipped are not different. Therefore, by definition of understanding this, who's got the highest bhakti? that one who understands, who's worshiping the Lord, she's actually not different from that which is being worshipped. Only in the aspect of form, there seems to be a smallness. The small individual who's putting up the puja and setting up the altar seems to be small, and I'm worshiping that big one. Only aspect of form and name, there's a difference. But on the absolute reality, existence awareness, it is one and the same. Okay, so who's got the highest bhakti? A Jivan Muktaha. In fact, Krishna is stating here, bhakti and jnanam do not contradict each other. Devotion and knowledge do not contradict each other. Why? Because, example, two new couples, what happens at the beginning? Not so much love, right? Uncomfortable with each other. Why? Because they don't know so much about each other. What happens as the new couple? What makes that distance reduce between two new couples? What makes that distance reduce? Do they just sit next to each other on a table like this? Okay, 1 hour, bye-bye. What do they do in that 1 hour? What do? They exchange information. They get to learn about each other. Jnanam, 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 jnanam. The more jnanam, the more bhakti, the closer they are toward each other, the more devotion they have, the more exclusivity they have for each other. Therefore, what is it that makes one love each other? Exchange of information. What is it that makes us comfortable with each other? Exchange of information. The gap reduces more and more. Therefore, the distance between the worshipper and the worshipped is proportional love. Distance is proportional to love. The more distance, the less love. The less distance, the more love. What reduces the distance? Jnanam, knowledge. What is it that I'm devoting to? The more I know about the person that I'm dating, the more comfortable we are towards each other. Is that not true? Time, knowledge. We want to know about them more and more. What else? What else? What else? Oh, tell me about that. What else? What else? This is why only Jivan Muktaha, who understands that there is no distance between him and that which is being worshipped, they have by definition the highest form of bhakti or love in the universe. Even to be worshipping, let's say, some god over there, that is still bhakti, but it's still not as high as that one who knows that which I'm worshipping is not different from myself. In fact, Narada Bhakti Sutra, verse 18, says, a Jivan Muktaha who devotes with an assumed notion of separation, that assumed notion of separation from the Lord does not contradict his abidance in oneself. Again, what does this mean? That means praying to the Lord does not contradict non-duality, because you just enjoy praying. You enjoy having a God, a personal deity. Okay? So what are the indicators of a Jivan Muktaha? Summary, the frequency of disappointment comes down. Why does it come down? Because the Jivan Muktaha is involved in the world. Juti, Karma Yoga, involved, immersed. Intensity of thought, speech, expressions come down. Okay? They're not easily overpowered by what happens. So what? What? So what? Now let's go and deal with it. Frequency of disappointment, intensity of thought, and the recovery period is shorter. Before, it took us 5 days to get over it. Now it takes us maybe 4 days, then 3 days. Slowly, slowly, the time shortens. Because of these indicators that we've just expounded, even the Jivan Muktaha is graded according to 4 levels in the scriptures. Why? Because all of these that we just expounded, they take time, do they not? They take time to develop. Yes. So even if one has ascertained the knowledge called a Brahmavid, a knower of Brahman, they too are graded according to the scriptures in 4 levels. The first level is Brahmavid. This is knower of Brahman. This means that the person still has lots of vrittis, lots of thoughts running around. They're a karma yogi. They still have a need to do things in the world, attend to events and go. And it's more Rajaguna, a lot of Rajaguna there. But they know Brahman, 100%. That means there's no rebirth. So all 4 levels, there's no rebirth. So it doesn't really matter what level you are. Just there's no rebirth. That's most important there. Brahmavid, lots of vrittis, and Karma Yogi, action. Next one is Brahmavid Varaha. Brahmavid Varaha means there's a lesser vrittis, and there's still decent amount of involvement in maintenance of the body. So you still kind of like want to maintain your body, look good, and go out there. You still take care of your body. Okay, so first one, Brahmavid. Naura Brahman, lots of vrittis, lots of thoughts. Next one, Brahmavid Varaha, lesser thoughts, more composed, a little bit quieter, a little bit more stabilized. Next one, Brahmavid Varya. Brahmavid Varya, it says that obviously lesser vrittis, during samadhi, during meditation, one has to wake them up. That means they're absorbed themselves so much in the meditation, they actually need an alarm clock for someone to awaken them. Whereas a Brahmavid, they can awake by themselves. They can say, okay, I've kind of like, my body's sore, I want to stop meditating. So there's still a hamkara there working for a Brahmavid and a Brahmavid Varaha. It also says that Brahmavid stage 3, Brahmavid Varya, one has to occasionally remind you of your body to eat and to also maintain your body. So it says, hey, you're cold, you eat. No, I don't want to eat. I just couldn't bother eating. I want to meditate. So therefore, they have to be reminded. You can see how lesser and lesser identification with the body. At the beginning, ahamkara is still there. Brahmavid Varaha, ahamkara is still there. Brahmavid Varya, lesser ahamkara. Brahmavid Varishta, Brahmavid Varishta. Here it is said that the person has generally little to no awareness of their body. This is highly impractical in real world because at this stage, all one wants to do is just meditate. Not interested in the world, not interested in teaching, not interested in anything, just meditate and stay in that absorption of the self. Family, world, no thoughts of that. Parents, no connection to that. Who knows parents? You? No. Who are your real parents? You have no parents. Your body has parents. So we can see Brahmavid Varishta, no identification with parents, with world, with anything. Not only does the person, through their Nididhyasana, go through these 4 stages, but also the person may change within a span of 1 year and may go through these stages. Sometimes you and I, we are Brahmavid. We just know as a Brahman, but we're still acting out there, right? Still going to the world. Other times we are just composed, calm, maybe Varya, maybe Varishta. So it doesn't mean that a person stays in this stage permanently. The person alternates between these stages, okay? And therefore, what does this show? It shows that Nididhyasana is a gradual process. You cannot speed it up. Through Nididhyasana, these 4 stages alternate, but also they make the Jivan Muktaha generally take on one of these 4 majority of the time.
Andre, there was a question Nicholas put out on the chat group, and I'm quite interested in that actually.
Yeah, I think it was answered, and you answered it the way I was thinking too. This pretty much applies to everything in life, but relationships especially came to mind in terms of we have a tendency sometimes when things are not going our way or we're not getting all of our desires to say, okay, there's got to be something better for me, something shinier out there. And so I was asking specifically, there's probably a lot of times where we're with a healthy, well-matched partner, and it's better to change our attitude rather than to jump ship.
Share one tool with us to how to resolve this, these conflicts, these hot emotions.
Well, I suppose the same way that you were saying in the beginning, when we want to decrease the distance between us and someone else, we communicate with them, we get to know them. And so I guess that's always the answer, is keeping relationships relational, and meaning that we communicate, and I'm interested in seeking connection and understanding rather than being right, I suppose.
Yeah, I'd just like to add something to that. When it comes to relationships, personal relationships, saying the things that are hardest to say, the things that you're scared to say because you may lose the person, or it may actually reveal something about you that you're not proud of. But saying those things is what ultimately brings you closer. Otherwise, you're both wearing masks.
Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.